nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any disclosures of interest? Hearing none. Review and approve the previous board meeting minutes.
So moved.
All right, the approval of the minutes have been made a motion and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion passes. Review and approve the county board agenda.
There's one addition. It's the removal of Bridge 25501 on Cassat 2, and that would be put under Public Works number 4.
Number 4, all right. Based on the one addition for the county board agenda, is there a motion to approve it?
So moved.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion passes. Yes. Too bad that's not local to it. Okay. That's looking for my red record button.
It's there.
Are we good to go? All right, moving on, review and approve the following items on the consent agenda. We have all had an opportunity to read over the consent agenda. Are there any corrections? Any changes?
I would move approval of the consent agenda as presented. I just want to make one comment. I shared some information with the attorney today. There was some hearings at the state where they're putting more dollars into the public defenders funding to the tune of 318 million over, I think, this biennium, which hopefully will help on that item 10, but not for sure that it will funnel all the way down to counties, but at least they're making an attempt. And they also made an attempt to put some dollars into the AG's budget so they can actually get more attorneys to handle cases that counties that are kind of above the county's abilities, because we just don't see very often. So there's some funding there that will hopefully help with some of that, because it really is a state function, not a county function, some of that.
So, yes. All right, it's been moved and seconded.
I'll second it.
Now it's been moved and seconded. Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say no. All right, motion passes for the agenda. Regular agenda, county administrator's report.
Good morning, commissioners.
Morning, Brian.
So this is a extension of what we discussed the 2023 board workshop, but this is the official motion. We're requesting to establish an RFP for new county branding. In the 2023 budget, we allocated $60,000 towards this process. We don't think it'll come fully to that, but we're hoping we can utilize those funds. What this actually would do is it would create a development of a brand. So this would include new Goodhue County logos. We'd be asking a designer or design firm to create 3 logos, which you guys would then choose. This would also come with a new tagline, typeface, color palette, other deliverables to support the overall brand initiative. And then the selected logo design will be delivered in print and electronic advertising, media placement, events, collateral, as well as signage. Yep.
Any questions for Briggs?
I will move that we do that with a comment.
Yes.
Paul Drodos always referred to that seal that we use and how it really depicted Goodhue County. I have one of those that I wear on my lapel whenever I'm at a meeting with my suit coat on, and I get numerous comments about how they like that seal. So I hope we deviate from it some, but don't lose some of the effect of it, because I think it really depicts Skidmore County fairly well. And I hope we just don't deviate too far from it. That's just a comment.
If I can make mention, the seal will not be going away. It'll actually be reserved for official functions, so it'll be reserved for the board and any communications from the board, as well as for the county attorney's office. We will just change the color depending on the color palette that the design firm comes up with.
Excellent. Good. I moved.
Very good. We have, it's been moved. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor to establish an RFP for the new branding process without losing the effectiveness of what we do have, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Briggs. Human Resource Managers Report.
Good morning, Commissioners. This pretty graciously offered the 2 chairs for our office to present this since it is our issue here.
All right.
And so we appreciate that. We also appreciate the fact that you allowed us to come directly to the board on this issue instead of waiting for the next board meeting and the Personnel Committee. The reason this has come up right now is because of the retirement of one of our longtime secretarial staff. She was legal secretary, case A. And we, after she retired, we had another one of our internal long-term employees, a legal secretary, move into that position. And she was, that particular person handled the majority of our traffic misdemeanor, gross misdemeanor, legal secretary work, which is, the volume of that work has skyrocketed. And so we're seeing a significant need in that area. The board had previously, if the board recalls, a couple years ago, actually, I guess it was a little over a year ago, approved a provisional legal secretary position for the county attorney's office to partially address the backlog of caseload that we've had during the COVID years in the court system. That position was funded through the ARPA program, and that funding continues through the end of this year. So what we're asking for at this time, that position has really been needed for a long time. And when we came to the board to ask for that particular position, my initial intention was to ask for that to be full-time at that time. But because of the opportunity to take advantage of the ARPA funds, we decided to do that, make that part of the request to fund that particular position through the ARPA, knowing that we would later come back to the board and ask that it become permanent. Because again, the need has been there for a long time, and we simply are just overloaded, particularly at that secretarial position. The board has our memorandum, which explains a lot of the details with regard to the financial underpinnings. Again, this would not impact the 2023 budget. The ARPA funds are sufficient to support the position through the end of this year. This would be a new budget line item for 2024. One of the things that that's not in the memo that I want the board to hear is just how long the county attorney's office has operated with the staff that we've had. We have not had a significant change in secretarial positions since 2002. That's over 20 years of operating with an ongoingly increased caseload over that time period. Our numbers have just skyrocketed. We've been able to absorb that, I think, in large part because the staff that we have had at the time have many years of experience. So we've taken advantage of that. We have very hardworking people who have absorb that burden on their own, and it's gotten to the point where it's just not tenable anymore. We had, in 2002, we added one receptionist position, and in 2004, we had a part-time secretarial position go to full-time. So that was the last time we've had a change in that particular category. Now that coincided with the attorneys. We didn't have an increase in attorney staff since about 2002 as well. The board in the last couple of years approved with the retirement of 2 very long-term employees in their office who are part-time. The board approved those positions to be filled with full-time positions. So what that equated to with regard to the attorney position is a 0.75 full-time equivalent addition from what we had in 2002. And again, the caseloads have skyrocketed, and I think would support even higher numbers. But at this point, with an addition of the secretarial support staff, particularly at that high volume level, which is where we're looking for to fill, I think we can manage for a while. So that is the request. If the board has any comments or questions, I know Ms. Kuster is here to make a few comments if she wants as well, and answer questions as well.
All right, any questions from the board?
Has the electronic filing been helpful, or it take less time or more time for the attorneys and the secretaries?
Well, it's a mixed bag.
All right.
We found out that a lot of electronic filing is designed to help court administration and not necessarily our
I see.
folks. It is more cumbersome on the front end when you're uploading all that information into the system. Once it's in there, in theory, it will be easier to manage, but at our level, we're the ones entering that information into the system, and it just takes more support time to do that.
Okay.
Any other?
I can say that I have a trial scheduled for Monday. My exhibits will need to be uploaded. One of my exhibits is over 100 pages, and it's a certified copy, so both sides need to be uploaded into the court system. That's not going to be done by me, I don't think. It'll be done by a staff. That's just one of my many exhibits. So that's why we're requesting a legal secretary, because we understand that we have a really good team in our office, and we just need another team member to we have lots of masters. We have the courts who have expectations, and we have our statutory duties as well.
And I would just, one additional thing that I just thought about, when we brought on that temporary position with the ARPA funds, the intention of that position was to help both with the misdemeanor, gross misdemeanor, and traffic calendars. That was one position that particular person was overloaded. We also have our victim witness coordinator in case aid, who is also extremely overloaded and can't keep up with the work. The idea when we hired that position was to get that person to a position where she would be able to help both of those positions out and give a little relief. Because it's only been a year, that particular person was able to learn the traffic misdemeanor, gross misdemeanor part of it, but wasn't able to provide any real help to that victim witness coordinator. I'm hoping with making this a full-time position that we will be able to reorganize a little bit and provide that relief to our victim witness coordinator. And that's one of the big functions of our office. We have a statutory obligation to victims of crime, and we want to make sure we're able to meet that to the best of our ability. Fortunately, when our internal candidate, who was our traffic person, moved over to the position that opened up with the juveniles, the person that was filling in our part-time position moved into that. So we had two internal candidates that moved into the two openings, leaving the vacancy at the temporary position. So we've been fortunate to have excellent people working for us and learning the job and moving into those positions. But it's going to take time to get up to speed and fill the shoes of the person who's been doing the work for 20 to 30 years. And we have that across the board. We have new attorneys coming in to replace those folks that left that had multiple years of experience, and we have the same thing happening at the secretarial level as well.
Thank you.
I move approval, and, I think as you look at your office and you look at your workload, and as you look at especially our internal need from the attorneys, from our county attorney's office, we need to make sure we're addressing that at the same time we're addressing what we need to do to the public. The public is, there's no choice. It's now. The court said it. We have to deal with the public stuff. But I don't want our internal stuff to just get pushed aside. I want that to be, that's important for our staff to keep working forward too. So as you go forward, look at ways that we make sure we meet our internal needs along with the public needs. So I would move approval of this.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to hire a full-time legal secretary. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, say no. Motion passes.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you
Thank you very much. County Surveyor's Report, Cannon Valley Trail.
Morning.
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 I've got a couple reports for you this morning. First one is about the Cannon Valley Trail. As you know, over the last few years, we've been surveying the whole trail, all 25 miles from Cannon Falls to Red Wing. When we got to Red Wing, we found there was an issue there with an encroachment with a building and a business using it for parking and part of their building. The issue was from years ago. Part of how I work with Scott Repke is we can only do things if we purchase the property through law-con funds, which is like federally funded grants and things. We can't have people take a property. Short and sweet there. The county owns the land of the trail, and so that's why we're involved in it. And we have, of course, the joint powers agreement that manages the trail. So when we got to this last piece, we wanted to finish platting, and we didn't want to just show that it was an encroachment because it would actually jeopardize any future funding that we got for the trail. So we have been working for a while. I've been working with Scott, and Dale Lemke did a lot of the surveying. So did Jeff Eklad here, and Ethan Seberg did a lot of the paperwork to file this. Because it was locked on, and Scott's here if you have questions about that, we had to go through the DNR. We had to come up with a purchase price, or actually an assessment of what the value of the encroachment was. And then we have to go buy land or find land that we can replace it with. A long number of years since we've started this trail in the 80s, the county has either acquired land through other grant funds or through donations, and also through some tax forfeiture issues. So what we did is Scott and I worked and looked along the whole trail, looked at all the parcels that were along the trail that the county owned in some manner, did the research on how we acquired that, and we came up with the one piece that we're suggesting to switch out. We did have an appraisal on that one. Bottom line, the National Park Service actually has to give the final okay on this transfer. It has to be the same area or greater, or it's got to be a value of same or greater. And in both cases, we met that in this one parcel. Scott, Mr. Repke had put in there that we could use this parcel for putting sand and other gravel and stuff for washouts. And so that fit with the trail. So we did not have to buy any land. This is, when we first started this process, they told us it would take at least 9 months. We found the land that we currently owned. So what will happen is we're going to vacate the piece that's being encroached, and then we'll add this other 1.24 acres, and it will be treated as if it was acquired by law-con funds. So Scott will be under the same rules and laws on how to deal with that land and what can happen there. So it'd be a swap out. And the fact that we got this through DNR and National Park Service, we want to get this signed as soon as we can. We do have the Cannon Valley Trail here also that will sign the document. I have it here, so after the meeting we can sign it if you approve this. This was a big deal. We'll finish the plat, which also has been a long project, but now Scott will be able to apply for funds by a legal description, parcel 1 of plat such and such, instead of that part of the railroad from the 1980s that goes across southwest quarter. So it finds it, marked it with survey markers, and Scott's got signs out, so hopefully we won't have any encroachment issues in the future. So with that, we request that the board execute the grant agreement, and then we'll go through the process to quit claim that encroachment to the adjacent landowner.
This was quite a topic at the Cannon Valley Trail Joint Powers, and we thought that we all agreed that this was the best way to move forward. So any questions for
This has
Scott or
been
Lisa?
like 3 years we've been working on this. It's not,
No.
this is, ever since we did the platting, which I think is about 3 years ago,
Yeah.
we've been talking about trying to figure this out. And it's a combination of missteps by Goodhue County to some degree, the trail to some degree, and certainly the city of Red Wing, who granted permits for what happened there, that it was outside of the property boundaries. This is the cleanest way to clean it up. It will answer all the questions for for the state and feds and for us locally. So I would move that we go through with this transfer.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to approve and execute the attached grant agreement and quitclaim the encroachment area to the adjacent landowner. Any further discussion on this? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Motion passes.
Thank you, appreciate it. It's a long project. The second one, Bo, you want to come up? This is kind of an FYI. This is just talking about our buffer funds, our riparian funds. We've been working, doing the, we took on the enforcement, which gave us money to do the enforcement. We fly every 2 years. Chad goes through all of the paperwork and he goes through all the photos and the parcels to make sure everybody's still in compliance. We have one outstanding one yet. But with that, we do have some funds that are still there that we can use for other things. We've talked to the, who was it, Bowser? And-
Resources.
Yep, and we asked them what we could use it for, and so there are a number of parcels, as Chad was going through the most recent paperwork or the air photos, there are some parcels that are becoming non-compliant because of the erosion of the banks. And so we thought that maybe we could use some of that money to cost share with them to try to fix that so they don't keep having to move their crops and their farming further and further out. If we can fix the bank, then we can stabilize that. And Chad's been talking a little bit more with Bowser, so if you have anything.
Yep. We'll make sure, talking with Bowser, Board of Water Resources, that these funds are eligible. And other counties are using them to give the funding to work with soil and water to provide technical assistance for the landowners. The landowners that, could be targeted are in compliance, and it was to no fault of their own with the stream banks, heavy rains washing out, and they could lose 5 feet, 10 feet. So it's an opportunity to continue to work with them because they came in compliance and before notice of non-compliance is issued to the county for enforcement processes. So with soil and water, we track the compliance status, provide technical and work with them. So like some examples of projects could be the stream bank stabilization, where it would be taking out some of their cropland, but you would pull the bank back a little bit, use some riprap, use some trees, revegetate it, to hopefully stabilize and control heavy rain events. Could be using them to provide seed costs to extend the buffer, but they don't want to do a stream bank. They just want to, maybe they lost 10 feet, extend it back out 10 feet to maintain compliance. Could hay it, native grasses. So there's different avenues that we could use it for. So
Do you have any idea, I mean, obviously, how many this has happened to?
yeah, there's about a dozen or so that are 10 feet or so more. There are few more that are starting to get like 2 feet maybe based off aerials, aerial imagery measurements, just gives you a starting point. So then reach out to them, work with a site visit with them, walk the property with them, and then discuss what they want to do, how to combat it, and help them develop a plan to address it. So there could be more if heavy rain events this spring. It could also double or triple because we've had drought conditions the last couple of years.
So stream bank, obviously, this money would not do 12 stream banks restorations.
And we would be doing a cost share. We wouldn't be paying for the whole piece.
Is there other funding available to do from soil and water through other programs to do this, other parts of that cost?
Yeah, good morning, commissioners. Like with any higher level government program, there's a lot of strings attached. This is a pot of money that we feel the strings are pretty loose. We're dealing directly with you as a board for reimbursement of the practice, and there's certain standards that need to be followed when we use state and federal funding for stream bank projects, which which often can make it cost prohibitive for the landowner. When sometimes just shaping the banks back, like Chad mentioned, and armoring the toe is all you need for some of these banks. So we love the local pot of money. So, because most of our time is spent, it seems like reporting to the state government for every dime we have, which is accountability. So we understand that, but to answer your question, yes, there is. Are they popular programs? Absolutely not.
This is one of the reasons why we wanted to bring the enforcement at the county level, because then we can work that directly with the landowners, where if it was just done at the state, it would have been, you're out of compliance now. Here's your
Add
fine.
add more feet.
Yep.
And we're not gonna do anything with the stream
Yeah.
bank. We're not
So-
gonna prevent it. Yeah, this is a real proactive approach
Yep.
to actually try to, well, it crosses into clean water too.
Right, the ripple effect is
It
huge.
is huge.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So this is just an FYI. We wanted to let you know that we are going to be using some of the funds for that, because normally it's been just aerial photography and things like that. So we will be using some of the funds for that. And then when we have our annual meeting with the soil and water, hopefully we'll have a project or a plan on how that will be allocated. So just kind of a FYI, make sure that you guys.
There's
are
no
aware.
action to this. You're
No, just want to let you know, if you hear somebody saying Gooding County's got this whole pot of money
A
for,
new like a buffer initiative.
yeah,
So-
so we don't want you to think that. We're just using what we have. So.
No, with the ripple effect is huge, so
Yeah.
it's very important. All right, any other questions from the board? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Old Highway 19 parcel.
Okay, this is the last one I have for you. Solving kind of some problems, older problems today. This one is, we had a request for a landowner that wanted to purchase or wanted to acquire a strip of land that was next to Old Highway 19 in Red Wing. As you can see, I've got the air photo up there. It's just a small strip about 30 by 1,300 feet along where the old highway was. Used to be County 6 in 1920s. Then it went to Trunk Highway 100. And then when in the 50s, when they moved 19 further to the west, they abandoned this, but there's homes on it, so they kept this as a road. Anyway, this strip of land was acquired back in 1920 for the road purposes. And looking back through all the old air photos, it looks like it's been farmed by this, family, or by this parcel for many, many years. They want to acquire it, and so we went through a process looking through the statutes on how we can turn it back to them. We've done some of these in the past, and in this case, this was basically returning it back to the owner that it came from, the parcel that it came from. And the statute that we're referring to said that you needed an appraisal, and so they got the attorney's office that we're working with, got the appraisal. It's $5,000. I think we bought it for $200 back in 1920, 100 years ago. So the resolution I have for you is kind of outlining the background, and it's suggesting that the board, give them 60 days after you sign it, if you agree to this, to come up with 5,000 to do that. Then we'll execute the deed and transfer that property, and it'll be incorporated into that farm officially, legally. So with that, we're requesting that you approve the tax resolution.
That little strip of land, you said it was like 30 inches,
No, 30 feet.
30
Like
feet, all right,
30, if I
by
Yeah,
100.
blew it up, I thought it said like 32 by.
yeah, so it's
Okay.
43.88 on the north end and 37.7 on the south end. And it ends up being like 1.2 acres is what we originally acquired it.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
thank you very much. All right,
And I looked on the county website, and where the next parcel to the top of the page
Mhm.
has already got.
Yeah.
So that must have been transferred back at a different time.
Well, either that or we didn't, I'd have to go back at the 1920s plans, but we might not have acquired it, we might not have needed it for something. So they just picked the pieces that they needed or they thought they were gonna use it. I did reach out to Public Works at the county and Red Wing, and they are fine with us transferring back to the owner. So if you approve it, you'll get another 5,000.
Move approval of the resolution as presented.
Seconded.
all right, it's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion passes.
Thank you. I'll have a bunch of stuff for you to sign afterwards when we get them moved on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Get it right with the other hand.
Public Works Director's report.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Good morning. All right, number one, 5-year bridge replacement program.
So last year on February 1st, Public Works came to the board to discuss the 5-year bridge program. It's slightly changed. We built a few bridges out of that program. And we've added 2027 into the program, which included 3 structures. A quick note of that is that the 3 structures that came into the 27 program are all county structures that qualify through various criteria. There's no township bridges that currently qualify beyond 2026. But as time progresses, as Greg mentioned during the committee of the whole, more than likely there'll be some that pop in. So changes that took place, as noted in the report, Bridge L5948, Cherry Grove Township. It moved from 22 to 23 purely because it's in our 23 construction program. Construction actually began yesterday, so that bridge is currently being replaced. L0574, Florence Township, there's outstanding right-of-way issues that need to be worked on with the state of Minnesota. There's state park impacts, and that's it just takes time to accomplish that. L0624, Wanamingo, there again, there's some outstanding right-of-way issues. So that was moved from 23 to 24. And then R0901 Kenyon, because that bridge is of a closed status, we advanced it as far into the program as we possibly could just to get that one back online. Due to increased costs of box culverts, higher cement prices, and an increased demand for construction, the funding that's available for bridges is not what it used to be. We're privy to receiving several special town bridge dollars from the state to advance our program. Those have not been available as of late due to those factors. So our program is highly dependent on what dollars we do have available on an annual basis. Our town bridge allotment isn't enough to replace some of these bridges individually. So we do rely on receiving those special town bridge dollars from the state.
So did the lack of bonding for a bridge program last year at the state affect this yet? Or
the bond dollars are held separate. We do receive some of those. We've applied for grants mainly for our county road bridges. The special town bridge dollars they're a net effect of counties that have less bridges than us that don't need to replace their structures. They can carry a certain balance of town bridge dollars, and when they're not using them, they just kind of roll back into the state pot of town bridge dollars available, which they identify as special town bridge dollars, and then we can kind of snag them. So
they reallocate is what you're saying.
yes.
But the lack of a bridge bonding bill last year, a lack of a bonding bill period, hasn't quite affected this yet as far as numbers. Going forward, they have to approve a bridge bonding to actually be able to carry this out.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. When you come up with the 710,000 for the Cherry Grove Bridge, for example, right now, 110th Avenue, that is actually dollars for the whole project, not out of dollars from the county that we have to spend, correct?
Correct. Yeah, these dollars are town bridge dollars. The county does not pay for township structures.
Right, and then we would actually do the engineering for them, like or don't we do that? Or-
We enter into agreements with the townships,
Hmm.
and if we have the availability to provide services to them, we let them know that, and then at times we'll take on surveying activities. We'll, yeah, if the bridge is sized, if the structure is sized for a box culvert replacement, for example, sometimes if we have the availability, our staff will do those designs as well. The bridge structures need to be designed by a consultant.
Isn't the typical amount for like that 710, and maybe it's changed, but it typically was the township would be responsible for 10,000 of the engineering cost and 10,000 of the construction cost. So the township's outlay was $20,000, and in the end, they got a $710,000 structure to replace what was there.
Yeah, generally speaking, that is correct.
Other than the outside of that is that if they have to purchase right away, that doesn't count towards this engineering cost and the construction cost.
Correct. The townships see the upfront cost of paying for the consulting, but they are reimbursed by the state, other than the $10,000.
Correct. So being part of putting bridges in the state bridge program is, in that case, $690,000 advantage to doing it on your own.
So other than that note, a few things to discuss with the priority list. The list is obviously subject to change depending on funding availability. Greg has been successful in receiving quite a few federal bridge dollars that will hopefully be able to pair with some bond dollars that come available during this legislative session. Bridge 25516 in 2025 is one of those structures, as well as we just recently found out that the County Road 43 bridge that's in 2027, Bridge 25573, is also being funded with federal dollars. The City of Pine Island Bridge in 2024, that is a city structure. It's Bridge L2510 that also received federal dollars that we had applied for on behalf of the city. So that's money that the county will not have to pay out, but we're tied to those. We become tied to those dates for the advancement of the state's program. So with that, we're here to ask the board to approve the 5-year bridge program as presented.
I'll move to accept that.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to submit the new bridge replacement priority list to the state as presented by staff.
Just one more question.
Yes.
So in your earlier presentation, you talked about all the bridges that the county has that are 60 and lower are in this program,
Yes.
59, yes, less than 60.
less than 60. So that's seven county bridges. Is that correct?
Yep.
All right.
But I thought when I asked you the question about how many were 60 or lower, you thought it was 35 bridges. We didn't know for sure.
I thought that you were asking for 60 and under.
I was.
Yeah. So basically on our system,
Uh-huh.
that's, if you count those up, that's the total number. What is it?
I see.
Including
Township. I understand.
townships.
I understand.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, we consider that
I understand.
ours.
So there's actually 22 bridges on this list.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is more aggressive than what we've had some other years.
Yeah. But this program is more aggressive in the first 2 years with, generally we had like about 4 per year. But then on the back end of it, as we get on those further years out, we've got the last year, for instance, 27 only has 3 bridges in it. So.
And the piece that's missing from this, which probably doesn't follow under our road system, is the bridges that are getting replaced on the Cannon Valley Trail.
Right.
Correct.
Correct.
Because there's 4 currently
Mhm.
One
Or
was
under this
one was a
contract.
bridge and 3 are culverts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they'll be going after grants for more the next go around here, coming
Yeah.
up in July, I think.
All right.
Yeah,
All right,
this-
it's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion passes.
All right, moving on to 5-year road construction program in lockstep with the bridge program. Public Works staff brings a 5-year bridge presentation to you for approval. Some notes here. The 2023 program is once again heavy on bituminous surfacing. It's kind of a net result of our County Road 1 or 100th Avenue project being pushed out due to some material delivery delays. Another note is a concrete rehabilitation on County Road 6, and then advancing Bridge 25501 on CSA 2 into the 2023 program. As I said, we're a little heavy on the surfacing projects just because we could advance projects that would have been in subsequent years into 2023. One bridge rehab. Moving into 24, we begin the grading project on 100th Avenue, and we'll also try and accomplish the surfacing of that road as well. And then later in the year, depending on how the County Road 2 project proceeds, we'll begin grading that project as well. And we'll also have some surfacing projects on the trail along CSA 21, a surfacing project on CSA 28, and that road goes through the park on Front Line. And then CSA 63 surfacing project in conjunction with City of Wanamingo. And then we're a paying partner as part of a roundabout project that MnDOT has at CSA 9 and Trunk Highway 58. And then we'll be replacing Bridge 25502 on County Road 45.
Is that roundabout project, they had public meetings about that already, didn't they?
I know they've had at least one in Goodhue
In good use.
on it.
And the state in conjunction with Goodhue County have applied for federal highway safety improvement project dollars. We have not heard
Mhm.
whether we're going to receive those or not, but that will help us, that'll help pay for some of this with non-county dollars.
And when they're doing that, is there any talk about the access at Country Station and changing that? The one that's farther north?
Not
That's, no, that gets outside of the project zone. I haven't seen any changes on up there at all.
I was just wondering, because they're making that intersection so safe with the roundabout, are they going
You know,
to
move it.
remove that other one?
Yeah, no, I don't
as
believe they're
an
going to remove
access
it.
point?
No, I believe
That
that's
hasn't
going to
been
stay
there?
on.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the plans, and I just questioned if they were doing anything with that.
It's gonna slow traffic a lot, that roundabout, make it a lot safer.
It will, except if you're turning left out of where the Country Station is and they're coming northbound or southbound, they're not going to be slowing down yet.
What is the rehabilitation on 6 for the concrete grinding?
So the road segment is between CSA 9 and CSA 1. The concrete at the time of placement, the joints curled on that. So it's an attempt to grind that out of it, to reestablish a smoother driving surface.
Yep.
If it's allowed to persist much longer, the problems they're gonna create other problems.
Yep.
So we're just trying to make that correction at this
So
point.
this seems like an unusual situation to have
Mhm.
occurred past what the contractor did, or this is the county's problem? or-
No, there's several factors that played into what happened there. There was a booming issue that was unintended by the contractor's operation. The cupping of the of the joints relates more to what's happening with the sub base of the road. It's not something that we can just correct unless we grind it out.
It's one of those issues is if you just drive your car down it and really try to find it, you won't even find it. But I was talking with somebody who drives an ambulance that the spacing of the front wheels and the back wheels of the ambulance is just perfect that the back of the ambulance starts to bounce. So if we have
That's the
people.
complaint I got was from Zimbrota ambulance
Mhm, yeah.
driving. They
So,
said you
yes.
come off of 6 from Zimbrota to 9 with no issue, and you hit that section,
Mhm. Yep.
and they like to go around because it is so hard on
The
people
patients.
in the ambulance.
Yep.
It's just like this the whole way.
And if
It's-
it
it is a spacing issue.
And if it allows to continue to get worse, more other vehicles will start to feel it too.
They've asked for that for a couple of years when I've been to the annual meetings of those townships.
How long has that road been there?
I believe we
Hmm.
paved that in 2016.
Is that something we can go back against contractor like Jason was pointing, I think he was pointing to? Is this a,
No,
The,
Is this
the,
the
the
contractor
whole
that's
issue there is
responsible for
not the responsibility of the contractor, and the
No.
issue that Greg was mentioning with the lateral wandering that's exhibited on that section of road was something that was already handled within the contract.
Just seems unusual if we're gonna spend the extra money to do a concrete paving project, which seems to be the extension of a road, better road. We're now going
Mhm.
back.
Yeah.
5 years later and spending another $750,000 to
yeah. But
improve.
but at least, compared to a bituminous road where sometime before it hits about 12 years old, you're going to be doing something pretty major on it. This should be a matter of surfacing it, grinding it out again, and it should be good for quite a few years going into the future.
That concrete was placed in 15.
2015.
But the difference is we're not experiencing that or seeing that on the other portion of the 6.
Correct.
The
That's
other
newer
portion of-
too.
The other portion of 6 was an overlay.
Different design.
This was new pavement.
Okay.
Okay, so I will say I know very little about the concrete part of what you're talking about. However, common sense just kind of tells me that even if it's first laid down, it shouldn't be bumpy like that, right? You're talking about the overlay that they did that smoothed what you were just talking about, that the overlay was smooth and that doesn't do it, but the part that was new construction, that does. Is that right?
On this project.
Yeah.
I guess I'm
We haven't
asking,
had it
new
exhibited on
construction,
any
I
other-
mean, new anything, just seems to me like it should work really, really well for a while.
It should.
Also not.
And it is, and as Greg mentioned, I mean, this comes down to a routine maintenance activity.
Yeah.
So much like we have to crack fill our bituminous roads, we have to do occasional maintenance to our concrete road.
Okay.
Yep.
Then just out of curiosity, this kind of goes back to my first question when we were talking about the bridges. If we do maintenance on the road, but we don't do maintenance on bridges, that's confusing me too.
Well, we
Or
can.
am I overthinking?
Surface, hit the surface on both. Surface bridges can be repaired, surface roads.
Okay,
Right.
thank you very much. That clarifies it for me. Okay, we're good.
You paint your house, but you don't go into the infrastructure really of the building.
Well, you do if you know how
Right.
to, because
Well,
yes, you
yeah.
still have to keep that stuff up too. But
Yeah.
yes, okay, thank you. I get it now. Good picture, Jason. Thank you. All right, any other questions? All right, we have a motion.
So moved.
Second,
All right, motion's
so
been,
one more comment.
yes.
You know, I went back. This 5-year bridge program is $64 million. I went back and pulled the first one when I first got on this board, 2015. 5-year plan was $24 million. It's a $40 million increase in the work we're doing on the road. So anybody that says we're not
Mhm.
working on infrastructure, first, isn't looking at what we're doing. this list is a heck of a lot more than that 5-year list. We are doing the work, and it takes staff to do that. So as we talk about consultants and the need for consultants, you can't deliver $40 million more project without more staff. It's impossible. And if we don't have the staff in-house, it will come down to consultants.
No, that is also inflation too, though, right?
Not $40 million worth of inflation.
We'll
If
talk,
it went up
I don't know, it's
20%.
pretty shocking.
Yeah.
20, if it went up 20%, you might be able to convince me of
But
that.
it's both. All right.
It is both,
Yeah.
but we committed, this board committed to put more dollars into our roads, and we are doing it. And I think those, looking back and looking forward, those numbers show that.
Yes.
That's a significant increase.
yeah, actually, we're going to touch on that in the next committee of the whole.
Yes. Thank you.
So
All right,
another quick note, a testament to what Brad is talking about is that our pavements have gotten to a very high level of satisfaction by most people, by any metrics that we can measure. And we're now able to start taking a look at regrading our roads that have safety improvements that need to be done. So as you progress through the 5-year plan, I kind of made it through 2024, but once you get into 25, 26, 27, there's a lot more major grading activities in there. And those improvements will ultimately last generations. So we're thankful that we're finally getting to that point.
And even with this long list and all these roads, you will hear people say, but not this road isn't on there. So even if we're attempting to really make there will be people who will say, what about this road? Well, that's the next one.
It's on the
And
list.
we'll get there, but
You have to build a church on it.
yep.
I just hope that,
There you go.
I just hope that future boards see how important it is to keep the surfaces in good shape. As long as you can, because some of these are called low mill and fill project, and that's taking care of the top inch or two of the bituminous roads, which is subject to the sun and is subject to the traffic and the salt and all of that. And when that starts to get bad, if you come in and you do a mill and fill, it's not a very expensive project. But what you're doing is you've now protected all the rest of the bituminous underneath it. You protect the bituminous, you protect the base underneath it. So when it gets in good shape, you keep it in good shape. And then the monies you have available, then you put that into the grading, because it's the grading is when you actually take a narrow road that doesn't have a shoulder and has really steep inslopes, and you widen it out and you put a shoulder on it, and then you put a 4-to-1 on it. And so if somebody does go off the road, the odds of them getting killed under the first one, pretty good. The odds of them getting killed after you redo it, the odds are pretty good. They're not going to get hurt. They may get the car banged up, but you're not going to kill. And if you're talking about actually making safety improvements, it's in the grading projects. But don't let your pavements get away from you, because then it'll cost you a whole lot of money to go back and try to fix those. Build it, maintain it, keep it in good shape, and then improve.
Thank you. Anything else? All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say no. Motion passes. All right, we're going into the public hearing.
All right, our next item for consideration is to ask the board to take a look at our local optional sales tax project list. The last time we were at the board was on February 1st, 2022, where the Board of Commissioners adopted a new updated list of eligible projects. Over the last year, several projects have been added to this program. 2023 5-year highway construction projects that are highlighted indicate their lost eligibility. All the pink projects on the third page of this agenda item are projects that are existing. All the gray projects are new projects that have popped in. It has been really nice being able to work off of updated projects, to be able to move stuff around to make it make sense to fit the program. So today, we're asking the board to adopt an updated list of highway construction projects that are eligible to use the revenues collected from the local optional sales tax. The list that's presented is purely a list that is taken directly from the 5-year highway construction program that the board just adopted. Another alternative would be to seek funding from other sources or take no action. Adoption of the local optional sales tax does require a public hearing. Notice of this public hearing was published on the county's website and in the local papers on January 24th, 25th, 26th, or on the 28th. With that, staff is recommending 2 separate actions. First is that we're recommending that the board hold a public hearing, consider the public's opinion expressed at the hearing, and decide what condition you want to leave our highway system in for future generations. And then second, we're recommending that the board adopt the updated list of projects attached to this agenda report, which we're recommending 2 separate actions. First, adopting a list of the projects that could receive the proceeds, and then second, approving the attached resolution as written. Are there any questions?
Not yet. So we need a motion to go into public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, we are now open to a public hearing. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this topic? Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this topic of local option sales tax? Third and final time, is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on behalf of this issue? Hearing none, is there a
Move
motion
to close public comment.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to close public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. We are closed from the public hearing, and is there a motion to move forward?
I would move the first to adopt the list of projects that could receive proceeds from local optional sales tax.
Second.
All right, the first portion of the request has been moved and seconded. All those in favor say, oh, any discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. That motion passes. Second part.
Move to approve the attached resolution as written or revised through the first action.
Second.
All right, that has been moved and seconded. Any other discussion on this?
The only thing I'd like to comment is, one thing I've talked to Greg and Jess about this a little bit. I get to talk to a lot of commissioners from all over the state because of the AMC board. And what I hear from a lot of them is that they've now adopted this local option sales tax, and they are amazed at how many dollars it has generated. One just next door is Dodge County, which has very, very minimal retail in that county. I mean, they have a couple of grocery stores, a couple of hardware stores, and that's about where it ends. You know, some, because my daughter lives in Casson, some really limited restaurants in all of those towns in Dodge County. But their amount they get from Lost is just blowing out of the water from what they thought it was going to be. And a lot of it has to do with what gets dropped on the doorsteps of all the people that live in Dodge County. They've gotten really good, the state's gotten really good about getting sales tax on those products that are delivered to your door, and that local option sales tax is where the delivery is, not where the sale place is. So it ends up in Dodge County, whether it come from Tennessee or come from Minneapolis, it doesn't matter. So that really has made a big difference, and it's making a difference. I'm sure if Brian went and looked at where that local option sales tax come from, it's a big deal to get it on those products that are delivered to your doorstep. So that has made a big difference, and that's why ours is $4 million a year, is because of that, along with, we have a more robust retail market that has retail that sells and gets those sales tax dollars. But just a comment of what I hear from around the state of counties that were reluctant to do it, who have now done it and are like, holy buckets, we were missing out on a lot for a lot of years because of that single issue.
We save a ton on financing costs too.
Yeah.
Anything else? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Motion passes. Number 4, closure and removal of Bridge 25501.
Yep. So due to a public safety concern, we first closed this bridge back on January 31st of this year. And it's requested that the board consider to consider a contract, or actually a quote, to remove the existing structure to take advantage of contractors being available at this time of year, and to shorten the time frame that would be required once we get a contractor on site to build the new one. Just a little background on it. The inspection on 25501 found the critical finding based on the condition of the piling, and based on an engineer's report, the board determined that it would remain open in a two-way, one-lane configuration. That engineer's report was based on the assumption that the vehicles using that bridge would obey the load posting signs installed at the bridge. We've determined that those overweight loads have been crossing over the bridge, and there's no way to know if additional overweight vehicles have or will continue to use that bridge. So putting safety as our #1 issue, we closed the bridge again on Tuesday, the 31st of January. We're in the plan. We've got a consultant on board working on the plans for this bridge. The bridge is almost in its final stage here. We should be seeing final comments within the next couple of weeks, and we should be replacing this bridge sometime early this summer. We've talked to the folks at the state when these plans come up to make it their #1 priority. And the folks in the state aid bridge office said that when it comes in, they'll look at this one first to keep the ball rolling on it. So I said part of the project to build a new bridge is you've got to remove the old one first. Some of this work could take place before the actual contractor who's going to build the new one shows up. And it would actually make the whole process once the contractor is here quicker. So we need to work out some potential permitting issues with the DNR based on the waters that the bridge goes over. But most of the construction contractors are sitting around with their crews really with nothing to do. If they can find a job like this, that they can come in and get some work done this time of the year, they would be very interested in doing that kind of work. So we're hoping they'd be available and that they would give us a good price to do it. So we can either develop a request to quote to remove the existing structure, assuming that we don't have issues with working in the waters before April 15th, or they could start after April 15th too, without the restrictions from the permitting. Or we could take no action at this time, and we'll just continue down the process and still include removing the old bridge with construction of the new bridge. So our recommendation is that the board authorize us to request quotes for the bridge removal as soon as practical. If the board wishes to follow this path, it's recommended the decision is made soon so that the final plans that are being put together by the consultant do not include the work of removing the bridge in those plans, and we can get those plans up to the state as soon as possible to get moving on, get the new structure.
So are you asking for a motion today?
Yes, asking for a motion authorizing us to go out and seek quotes from local contractors and see if somebody is interested in coming in and removing it soon.
I'd like the motion move forward with the recommendation to request quotes for removal.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no.
Right.
Motion passes. Thank you. It'd be good to move this along very quickly.
Thank you.
All right, there are several things under for your information. Staffing report, finance reports, county board committee reports. I have one briefly from the housing committee. I think since we started with ARPA funds, we have like over 480 new units in 2022 alone. We had an addition of 205 new housing units. The numbers are far higher than I thought it was going to be able to do. So I think it's very clear that the building permit project is working well.
Just kind of piggyback on that. I was reading an article the other day. There are apartment buildings in which have happened in Goodhue County, you know, the two out by the hospital here, the other one that's going up out there, Zumbrota, Cannon Falls, that there were 940,000 apartment starts in the nation. And that is like the highest number since the 70s. So we're in the mix of that,
Yes.
and it's working, you know, that there finally is that push to do more consolidated housing with a, you know, smaller footprint on the land, which is part of it too. So it was interesting that we're just kind of in that mix.
Yes, and there are two big ones coming up the hill by Mayo Hospital, one that will be subsidized and one that will be market rate, but yes, growing quite quickly.
Also from that meeting, Brian had reported, we have about enough in the building permit waiver. We have about enough to basically finish this year with that program. But if the board's going to want that to continue, we'll have to have more discussions on that. But I mean, 480 houses in a year and a half is a lot. Normally we would have 40 or 50 a year. Or housing units, I should say, not
Right.
houses.
New and old business.
Just
Yep.
one more thing
Yes.
about there's a lot of talk in Washington about ARPA funding and how it was used. And as I listen to some of that and the things they're pointing to, it makes me feel pretty secure of how Goodhue County used those dollars. I know other counties which are using them for those specific things they're talking about in Washington, that I'd be a little nervous that I was there. But in our case, I think we really used them very appropriately to address certain issues that meet the criteria of that. So that makes me feel pretty good about that.
Excellent. New and old business. I have two things quickly. One is I would like to move forward this year with a committee of the whole on discussion on body cams. I think we are to the point in the world today where it's going in that direction, and I would like to get there proactively rather than retroactively. So I would like to move forward this year with a committee of the whole on that. And when I know the committee of the whole for the Dr. Melvin's pay study is canceled for today, but it's going to be coming up, rescheduled soon. And one of the things that is on that report is what is the pay philosophy of the board? And I think that is something that if we don't have that as a solid foundation, we don't really know where to go. So I would like everyone to think about that, of what your own pay philosophy is, so that when we do come together, we can actually have an educated decision on it. All right, anyone else?
Is there any time frame when we think that's gonna happen?
I just found out that she wasn't able to make it just like an hour and a half ago, so no, I don't, I've asked her for if she's available next meeting, but I don't know yet, so.
Well, even if we have to go, away from a meeting date, I think it's critical that we get some more information from that.
Yeah.
And maybe if it's not on a day when we have a meeting, the length of it isn't constricted.
Right.
Especially if we go to, the next meeting with Health and Human Services and everything, it just gets too cramped together.
Well,
We don't get
likely if it is
You
the
don't have enough
21st,
time to really think about it and talk about
likely if it is the 21st, it's likely after HHS is when it would be. So, but I don't have any,
Okay.
I don't know her availability yet, so.
it. All right. Review and approve the county claims.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to pay the bills. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Sorry, I forget that one. All right, motion passes. We are adjourned.